Hello there everybody and welcome to episode 19 of the Train Sim News Show. Well, to start off this episode, let's start by talking about the recently released Class 222 Meridian by Just Trains. Now to be fair, I have been well aware that the 222 has been in development for quite a while. I just didn't mention it because there was not much else I could really say in regards to it apart from, oh look, a 222 is in development. Now, moving on. I mean, I can't really say anything else apart from that with such limited information given to me at the time. But now it's released, and my final verdict is that it's the greatest train on Railworks. Obviously, I'm lying through my teeth, it's anything but the best train on Railworks. My god, this train is bad. Not in real life, it's alright in real life, but on Train Sim, it's bad. Really, really bad. Well, my first criticism is mainly from the product page, because if we check under the detailed description part, liveries, that's fine, vehicle types, that's fine, but under model features, it doesn't seem as if they have that much confidence, with things such as bump mapping, cab sway movement, windscreen wipers that clear rain from the driver's front windows, what, as opposed to windscreen wipers that melt the windscreen? Or animated passenger doors. Yeah, you're a bit late on that. That's been around for quite a while, let's be honest. So I wasn't feeling very confident with myself after reading the description. And after driving it, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh boy, this feels like a late beta. It has to be some sort of late beta. There is no way anybody could look at this and say, yeah, this is a 100% finished product. Well, regard to the train itself, quite a few of the problems that plagued the Voyager Advance are still in force here, such as the tail lights that don't turn off when you couple two trains together, and the brakes, which remind me of that Lancia they showed off in Top Gear. Yeah, I've had quite a lot of overruns with this train in my tests, and it gets really annoying. Hell, even the people on UK Train Sim are complaining about it, that's rare. I also discovered that some of the wheels on some bogies rotated in the inverse direction. I have no idea how this got through the beta testing screens. In fact, yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. Not only does it defy logic, but how the hell did this get passed through beta testing? But wait, there is more! Not only did I also find a glitch where if you turn to the right hand side in the cab, the AWS Sunflower for some odd reason mysteriously disappears. Yeah, I don't know why that happens, but I also did a test where I created a 9-car set of a Meridian. Yes, they do exist. Well, did exist. And for some odd reason, inside the cab, the train fails to acknowledge that my train's a 9-car train on the TMS screen or on the right hand side with the pen marker. I have no idea why this is the case. The only words that come to my head regards to this are the words rushed and development. Alongside that, I also found out that if you drive with a 10-car formation, that is to say 2 5-car trains coupled together to make 10 cars, not only will the TMS fail to acknowledge the fact that your train is longer than 7 coaches, and the board pen writing in the cab that says 5-car will disappear for some odd reason, but also the sound will not work properly, as in you will only hear the engine revving any higher than idle in the rear 5 coaches. Okay, well, why is this going on? This didn't happen in the original Voyager Advance, what's your excuse now? Speaking of which, that's my other criticism, the sounds themselves. The exterior horn, for example, doesn't match the interior horn at all. So once again, I'm very confused how that managed to get passed through testing. And another thing is that the sounds don't fade properly, or they don't really sound realistic when it's fading. You know, on the Austrian Powerhouse sound packs, when a train is far away, you can tell it's far away just by sounds. Not so much here, it's kind of hard to work it out on the Meridian. to add to that, I'm not sure if it's just me, but the interior sounds do seem very similar to the Austrian Powerhouse sound pack. I shall play you 2 recordings here as an example. The first one is a Super Voyager and the second one is in the Meridian. And I should stress that the Super Voyager has the Ultra Powerhouse sound pack, the Meridian doesn't. So yeah, they do sound very similar. From what I'm aware of, the Austrian Powerhouse didn't record the sounds again and gave them to just trains for the Meridian. They're not giving any credit in the manual at all, so we can't really assume that. Now, as far as I know, an update was released for this train fairly early after its release. I think about, 24 hours or 48 hours after it was released, and it's fixed the wheel problem from what I know. But that's not enough to make me like this train, I'm sorry. This train has really annoyed me, for reasons that mainly lead on to incompetence on the developers. I was going to use the Meridian on my route since I was having a very hard time finding a train that would suit the service it would run on, which happens to be unelectrified. Well, that idea is going straight in the bin, considering how crap and unfun it is to drive this train. I don't care if the developers who were making this train were on a very strict deadline. At the end of the day, I'm criticising the final product, okay? And selling what is basically an unfinished beta for £20 is downright unacceptable. With that being said, this train is bad, but at least it isn't as bad as that film my best friend made me watch. That made me so angry, just hate it. Moving on. Well, another add-on that was released to Train Simulator happened to be this pack, BR Blue pack. And, well, number one, it's an Iron Horsehouse rehash. And number 2, I already own most of those trains, and I already have reskins of them in BR Blue, so it really doesn't concern me. And number 3, I'm sorry, BR Blue really isn't up my street. Here's a good way to put it. It's BR Blue. Alright then, do any of the trains look anything remotely like this? No? Then I have little to no interest in it, I'm sorry. The locomotives that are included in this pack are the Class 3, 25, 31, 37, 105 and Class 55, which for some odd reason is marked as being AI only when people have got reports that saying it works perfectly fine. Oh, here's your fun fact, we already had all those trains! My oh my, doesn't this feel familiar? Not to mention the wagons and coaches that have been included are exactly the same as usual, you know, your Mark 1s and PCAs, etc. Nothing too special there, and I don't see a point of purchasing this unless you are brand new to Train Simulator. Because if you are a veteran in Train Simulator and you are a heavy BR Blue enthusiast, 9 times out of 10 you will most likely already have all those trains and in those liveries because of reskins made by the community. Oh well. Moving on. Now, I'm well aware that there was an announcement for a Austrian route that Dovetail are making. However, I'm not going to be talking about this route too much now because I don't really know anything about it. Except this. According to somebody in the comments who provided Google Maps evidence, it's 26 miles. Or another way to put it, imagine if they made London to High Wycombe. And moving on once again. So, 10 minutes in and I'm finally talking about the main topic that I wanted to talk about in this episode. Well, to be honest, I've been planning to talk about this episode for ages, and to give you an example of how long, this was originally going to be episode 4, alright? And it's now 19. Man, has it been a long time. Oh well, better late than never. It's a discussion about fictional content in Train Simulator, specifically fictional routes and fictional reskins, not so much scenarios because I don't involve myself in scenarios too much. For those of you who didn't know, a fictional reskin is a reskin of a train into a livery that doesn't exist, or into a livery that it doesn't carry. And a fictional route is basically a route that doesn't exist. If a route is fictional but takes elements from real life routes, kind of like my one, then to an extent it can be classed as a semi-fictional route, but I think it goes without saying. So what's my opinion on fictional content in general for Train Simulator? Simple, I prefer fictional routes and reskins on Train Simulator over real routes and reskins on Train Simulator. Note I said prefer, okay? I don't hate real life routes and reskins. And to be completely honest, I'm not too sure why. I mean, in general, I do prefer fiction over non-fiction, as evidenced by the fact that I'm building a fictional route myself, as I've stated multiple times in my show, and, well, I play a lot of fictional games. Then again, games are mostly fictional unless they're a simulator or something along the lines of that. But no, I'm really not too sure. I can't really give a proper answer. I was thinking it was on the lines of, it's easier to see the creative values of other people through fictional reskins and routes, or at least their interests, but I don't know, I don't think that works too well. Now, I hope people watching aren't getting into the mindset of, oh no, I have to make a fictional reskin in order to get my approval. Oh, no, that's not the case at all. You don't have to make a single fictional reskin to get my approval whatsoever. I mean, for example, if your best mate tells you that he prefers eating custard cream biscuits opposed to bourbons, you don't have to start eating custard creams yourself now, do you? In order to get his approval. So you know what, I'm going to show you a few bits and pieces of fictional content on Train Simulator that I really like. And the first one we're going to see right here, I'm giving this guy 10 points for just raw originality. Why? We'll see in a moment. The first person I'm going to talk about is a Mr. Daz Harvey. He hosts his reskins on a website called Caledonian Railworks. Now Mr. Harvey has made reskins for many trains on Railworks. Many trains indeed. But the ones I want to focus on are for the Class 170. Just take a look at these. Nothing I have ever seen on Train Simulator to date comes anywhere near this level of originality, and I love it! Now, from what I'm guessing here, these liveries are based off different kinds of drinks from bars? I'm not too sure, I've never really heard of them before because I'm from Surrey, where I'm on a diet of hard water, but you get the idea. This livery right here even reminds me of my Sylveon. That's nice. Now granted, I don't have much intention to drive these reskins, mainly due to how bad the 170 is and how bad it sounds, but I just love the creative premise of these reskins. I could never come up with an idea like this. Also, on an unrelated note, Mr. Harvey, I love your profile picture so much. I loved watching Wallace and Gromit when I was a kid, and I loved the Wacky Races and the Dick Dastardly Squadron thing when I was younger. That is downright hilarious. I love it. The next pieces of work that I'd like to talk about are from a Mr. Danny Leach. Now I'm fairly certain that most of you will know that name from the various routes that he's managed to join together, aided by the fact that he actually works for Dovetail Games. I've got nothing clever to say about that. But he has made his fair share of fictional reskins, and he's actually building a fictional route. I guess you could say he was one of the bigger inspirations for me in regards to route building, at least the region it takes place in. He's even thinking outside the box with some reskins here, like this 3781, whilst I think the 378 is undrivable now. Yeah, that's alright, I like that. And he's even making a 375 reskin in the refurbished livery, even though it has the wrong headlights, but hey, well, it'll do. Wait a second. Oh, for God's sake! Anyway, back to the route. I remember seeing it ages ago. I used to see videos of it, and I actually used to drive in it a lot when I was playing Train Simulator on a laptop that looked something like this. Yeah. And I remember the station names were actually based off real places, and all of a sudden they've all changed. I don't know why. If you changed all the station names just to give your route a bit more character and originality, then that's alright. Got nothing against that. But if you changed it just because people were complaining that you use real station names on a fictional route, you know, complaining about accuracy on a fictional route that doesn't exist, well, that's just pathetic. It's your route, unless the station names were unneedingly offensive or inappropriate, name them whatever you want. You can't really complain that a route that doesn't exist isn't accurate to the real thing now, can you? Now, Mr. Danny here is in the process of revamping his route, and it does look much better now, nowhere near as cringeworthy as before. He hasn't finished it, and I'm not going to be one of the kids who just pester him for early states or anything. Hey, I got an idea. When you're finished, maybe I can beta test. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Actually, no, I got my own route to bore about. But yeah, I like it because Network Southeast and it's in the southern region, and it's a nice contrast to my route, which is also fictional and based in the southern region, though in the modern day. And the last route that I want to focus on, which isn't mine, is a route which I think many payware developers, including Dovetail and Just Strange, should very well take note on. It's a freeware route from UK Train Sim called, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, the Eye Valley. The Eye Valley is a fictional route taking place in the western region of the United Kingdom. I think I've stated this before, that it's one of the few other routes apart from my route, which I drive on a quote-unquote infrequent basis. The main reason why I like this route is because there is so much for you to do. Just look at the map. I mean, it's not the biggest route on Railworks, but it's bigger than the North London line, and it gives the player a huge amount of variation. You can drive HSTs at 125 miles an hour, various different types of freight trains, stopping passenger trains, it's all there. There are also no LED signals on this route anywhere. This means that the era on the route is much more interchangeable than most other routes on Train Simulator. You can make scenarios in the modern day, Network Southeast, or early BR Blue in the 80s if you wanted to. Not to mention, it's just a very pleasant route to drive on. In fact, to me, in some places, it does feel like it's a real-life route. Even with the assistance of friends, I still struggle to do that on my route. Don't be fooled into thinking that I think the Eye Valley is perfect. Oh no, I think it has some problems. Number one, there's a small area over here which has no scenery whatsoever. And mind you, it's a really small section compared to the rest of the route, but I think it should be addressed sometime soon. Number two, it's very easy to get lost. I think it's just me, really, but it's not really much of a big issue, considering the fact that the route is fairly big. And number three, the route has no proper end, if you understand what I mean. There's a huge station, Westhampton, located in the centre of the route, but there's no real end of the line. There's no Western terminus or London terminus to speak of. I think adding one or the other could benefit the route and just say, okay, the route starts or ends here. But those little problems aren't enough to discourage me from driving the route. For people who play scenarios a lot, there are a handful of scenarios you can download for the Eye Valley on UK Train Sim. About 84 at my last count, and even then a few of them are packs, so let's say, as near as makes no difference, 100 scenarios to choose from. And if you still turn your nose up and say that's not enough, then just turn around and go back into your Rolls Royce and ask your chauffeur to drive you back to Wentworth to play some golf. So those were some of the fictional reskins and routes that I wanted to talk about, which helps me segue onto something which is very worth discussing indeed. Now, I like the Eye Valley, and I like Danny's route, and I like the route that I'm building, obviously. However, I cannot help but think that all those routes, including my own route, could be a lot better. Not because of the route builders themselves, no. I mean in regards to the assets. Let me explain what I mean. If you want to build a route on Train Simulator, regardless of if it's a fictional route or a real-life route, you will need to go into that knowing that your creative impulses and ideas will be heavily restricted on concepts that should have never existed in the first place, such as the game's terrible business model and the marketplace. Now, you can tell me all day in a stereotypical American accent that, oh, you don't have to buy all the DLC and marketplace stuff. However, if all these items here are being put behind unneeded paywalls, A route builder is being denied to be creative. They are being denied to add some character to their route, and to me, that's just downright deplorable. Plus, it also means other people have to invest in the assets as well, and how is it fair on them? Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to buy a route that I'm never gonna touch again, just so I can get a nice freeware route to work. And to be honest, I don't really want to blame the route builders, more so I would rather put the blame on the developers of the game themselves, because again, the system that MSTS had was much better. In fact, better in every single way, regards to asset management and stuff. Here's another example I have. This game here is called Trackmania United. I love this game to death, it's so much fun. The whole concept is that you drive on race courses and you can also build your own little race courses with extremely unrealistic physics and awkward mechanics to work around. The game can make you rage, but it's fun. And not to mention, every single race course the developers have built, you can build yourselves to the exact same level of detail. They don't put all the items and utensils you need to build your race courses behind unneeded paywalls. There is no need for them to do that. If you're very skeptical about making your purchase for Trackmania United, that's perfectly fine. You can get the other version called Nations Forever, which is completely free to play. Yes, completely free to play. You don't have to invest in any microtransactions or anything, you just install it and go straight into playing the game. You don't get as many racecourse themes as you do in United, but you can still build your own racecourses and stuff, as well as being able to play online as well, which is great. Now back to Train Simulator. I'm well aware that there's an elephant in the room, you know, the freeware community. I don't want to make it out as if I'm ignoring them, no, of course not. I really like what the freeware community has created, but the freeware community can only create so much, let's be honest. Plus, not all the people in the freeware community know the game as well as the developers know the game, which is fair to say. You know, I've been sitting here and thinking, if I was able to build my route using assets and trains that I would appreciate more, and to a style that just makes it feel a bit more realistic, what would it be like? In fact, I'll tell you right now. One train that I would like to use on my routes, specifically on the new sections I've been building roughly around here, is the Class 172, and because my route's based in the southeastern region, I'd put it in the southeastern livery, the one with the blue stripe, and then in the cab, I'd give it the ETCS cockpit, very similar to the Class 158s that run on the Cambrian lines. The Class 172 would be used on local and semi-fast services on that branch, and running on intercity services would be the Class 68 running those refurbished Mark III coaches with a DVT at the end. Maybe 7 or 8 coach formations, I don't know. It would also have ETCS cab signalling on board for the branch as well. However, I would still place conventional signals on that branch to allow diverted freight trains or other trains that don't have ETCS on board to run on it as well. And the signals in that area, as well as other selected areas of the route, would be of the new VMS lightweight signal variant, as well as those signals that look like this. This would show the player that, hey, some areas of the route are being developed and future-proofed more quickly than other areas of the route, just like as it would be in real life. It would give some more character and realism to, albeit a fictional route, but still, it would be nice to be able to do that. I'd probably add a few disused signal gantries here or there, you know, to showcase that not all signals last forever. How about access to other variants of signals? Those signal house signals being used on the Chiltern Main Line, for example, or unusual variants of signals, skewed banner repeaters or span indicators, tall signals, signals on old gantries, unusual semaphore signals, or even merry-go-round signals for freight trains. I can guarantee a lot of people would appreciate being able to have access to more of these signals, especially if they work just as they do in the real world, which is something that Dovetail haven't realised is something that their UK Pro signals do not do. And I wouldn't just stop at signalling, no, I would love to be able to use different types of platforms. For example, those very narrow concrete platforms that I use around my area to show that, a while ago, the station had its platforms extended. Again, giving some history to my route. Some stations may have different types of platforms compared to other stations on my route. Not to mention, how about different station designs and station furniture? I could certainly do with using different station models and different footbridges, different kinds of shelters, or even brackets for the signals to make my stations feel a bit more realistic. I could certainly do with those new kinds of platforms being used at stations like the new Oxford Parkway station, and I'm fairly certain that you now get the point. Now don't worry, I'm not thick, and I haven't been drinking too much orange juice, okay? Those are just a handful of the things that I would do on my route if I had more creative freedom and more assets to work with. You know, route building on my route heavily reminds me of that little story series I made when I was younger in my spare time. And when I say younger, I mean 8 years old, and I'm still developing it now in my spare time. Granted, just like my route, I'm nowhere near finished, and I still need to iron out some of the problems here or there, but the main thing is, regards to my little story series, I'm able to be way more creative than Train Simulator would ever let me be. Even the video editor that I'm using to make this episode allows me to be more creative than Train Simulator would ever let me be. And you know what, it's a very sad thing. Even in regards to my ideas that I've been talking about, it's extremely unlikely that they'll ever happen unless I commission Dovetail £1 million to do so. And then again, I've already had my fair share of commissions, hint hint nudge nudge, so it's not exactly something I'd be more than willing to do, let's be honest. I would appreciate it if Dovetail would start showing some respect for the community, as well as route builders and scenario creators, regardless of if your routes and scenarios are fictional or not. However, considering the way they responded to me in my email in the last episode, and how they respond to some comments on their videos, that alone seems extremely unlikely for the foreseeable future. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. I'm finally finished this episode. It took me ages to do it, and I deliberately waited until this day to finish, or at least to upload it onto YouTube. Why? Because it's the 7th of November 2015. Do you know what this means? Well, actually, you most likely won't, but this day marks the 5th year anniversary of my YouTube channel! Woo! Woo! Yeah, that's right. 5 years ago, I decided to create a YouTube channel called Dan the Man Studios 1, and I made many videos which were really bland, to be honest, Sparta remixes and YTPMVs, blah blah blah. Then I quit in 2014-ish, then I came back onto YouTube after the Blue Rail incident, and here we are now, 19 episodes into a podcast show thing that I really enjoy making. And also, this is the last call for episode 20, being the second Q&A. If you have any more questions that you want me to answer in my second Q&A, don't forget to post them in the comments or send them to me. Thank you very much for watching this very long episode, and I'll speak to you guys later. Goodbye!